Good morning. Fat loss tips uncovered, or going a little bit deeper. Yesterday I posted up 4 tips to help fat loss, and I thought I'd go in a little bit deeper on 2 of them. I think 2, which equals 4, 2 of them really probably don't need to be drawn upon a bit there, which was drinking water first thing. I think these 2 are fairly common sense tips, but one thing that I have found is that quite often even the common sense stuff is good to be reminded around, because we quite often overlook and try and skip the simple steps to try and get ahead to the things that we feel will really make a difference, whereas if we repeat often the small steps, they will get us further up the ladder. So number 1 was around having some water first thing in the morning for hydration levels. And the other one was around being in control, planning our meals as much as possible, because when we are planning, we're in control. When we aren't planning, someone else is in control. But the 2 that I wanted to touch on was having the protein and fats for breakfast, and number 4 was around our nervous system and not eating when stressed. So let's go first off. Look at this, out on a dog walk, there's a bench. Let's have a sit down. Right, because I might lose the signal. Number 1, it's a bit damp. Number 1, fat and protein for breakfast, and here's why. Overnight, we are hopefully asleep. And what happens is our blood sugar levels, which rise dramatically and give us a bit of an energy boost when we consume carbohydrates, but equally, insulin will go in and pull out this blood sugar, because it is not safe to have high levels of sugar in the blood. As I've said before, we have around about, in our whole blood system, around about 4 grams, which is just a teaspoon of sugar, I've had enough of sitting down, travelling around our body. So therefore, you know, we consume anything, a pastry, a muffin, where we're looking at sort of 30, 40 or above grams of carbs and sugar. That is dangerous to the body, so it pulls it out and insulin gets raised. Overnight though, we're not consuming any kind of carbohydrates, and so our blood sugar levels tend to drop very low, which isn't a major problem when we're asleep. And what happens is, when our blood sugar levels drop low and we are not expending energy, we switch from using carbohydrates as energy and fuel to fat, metal. And so what happens here is, first thing in the morning, we are, in effect, a fat-burning machine. We are operating because blood sugar levels are low, and we've swapped because our body feels that there's no need for massive uses of carbohydrates as energy. So we've swapped over to fat burning. But then what happens if we go and, say, have a pastry, or we have some toast, or we have some cereal? It's quick releasing carbohydrates. So it goes into our body, switches us straight away from fat burning to carb burning, massive intake of carbohydrates or sugar. Insulin comes out to grab these sugars out the bloodstream, and suddenly we turn fat burning from this big flame to a little matchstick. And then obviously, as we know, for those of us that maybe have had those, we've all had it, mornings of hitting the carbs, by mid-morning we are starving again, because they've digested, we've had this big raise in blood sugar, and then it's dropped and it's crashed again from there. That is one reason why not having a carb-rich breakfast, especially a sugary one, for breakfast is great for both health, energy and fat loss. So therefore, if you have protein and fats, it has a very negligible, if anything, raise on insulin. So we stay in fat burning mode. We will stay fuller for longer, because proteins and fats also keep us satiated. That's the right word, isn't it? Yeah. And so therefore it digests a lot longer, so our energy levels will be a lot more sustained. We'll stay in fat burning a lot longer. You know, when you go on holiday and you go to these buffets, and it's quite amusing because they have everything for every country. The English, what do we tend to go for? We'll tend to go for yogurts, maybe a little treat. Oh, hello, there's pastries going on. But we go for all the English stuff, the scrambled eggs, the baked beans, the toast, all of those kind of things. Julian, how you doing? Whereas, what do some of the Europeans go for? Meats and cheeses, the proteins and the fats on there. There is a little clue around some of these. And so, you know, maybe going for a protein-rich or a fat-rich breakfast is definitely worth doing. Even, depending on the rest of your diet, even fasting for a little bit, going for a few more hours without any food. Because, again, you'll stay in this fat-burning zone. Unless you've got some kind of physical job, your body will continue to use fat for energy rather than moving for carbs. The thing that will dictate whether that will work for you or not is also what you had as your last meal. If you had some kind of a high carb meal Your blood sugar levels in the morning will be really low. Equally, if you've had a lot of sugar in the evening or alcohol, they'll be very low. So I wouldn't probably fast if you've had those kind of things first thing. So there's another reason really why one of those tips around about having a higher protein, higher fat breakfast is more beneficial for both fat loss and for energy. Number 2, but I think it was number 4, was around not eating when stressed. And here's why, just to take that a little bit further. So our body can switch between 2 main nervous systems, and our nervous systems control everything. Controls our hormones, controls our heart rate, controls our body temperature, controls our movements of our organs and everything internally, the stuff that we don't really get to see going on. Number 1 is called our parasympathetic system. It's all technical stuff, but that is basically also known as our rest and digest system. So hopefully I'm in that now. There's no threat to me, apart from maybe if my dog doesn't come back. And so my heart rate is relaxed, blood pressure's down, regulated, blood sugar levels are nice and level, and that's how we should be functioning as often as possible. Just as I hear a big bang. And that's a great little clue, because any form of stress, whether it is someone jumping out the bushes with a knife or a gun, a big bang from somewhere, I get an email or a text message from someone coming up, calling me in. I was going to say calling me in for a meeting, but when I work for myself, that would be very hard. But if you're working for someone and that happens, or you get a pissed off message from someone, that moves us into our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight one. So our body, whenever we experience those things, it goes back to being sort of cavemen. Fight or flight is around saber-toothed tiger, etc. coming to us. Obviously those don't tend to happen nowadays, but we have so many other forms of stress, from running late, being disorganised, not planning meals, the option I said a minute ago of, like, a text message or an email, or the boss calling you into a meeting saying, right, I need to talk about something with you. We switch into pissed off stress mode, and it triggers this sympathetic nervous system. Body temperature goes up, heart rate starts raising. Hormonally, we start to release adrenaline, a lot more noradrenaline, a lot more of these internal brain hormones to get our body primed to either fight or flight. But as I say, nowadays we don't really need to be fighting or flighting, but we do stress out, and so we release the same kind of hormones in our body. And the big problem this has on our digestion is, if you think about it, if you need to fight or flight, do you need to be sitting down for a meal? No, your body does not want that. Your body is ready, on edge, to fight or flight. And so it moves all the blood away from your digestive system, because your digestive system is a huge system, or energy system, and takes a lot of body energy and expenditure. And so if you're about to fight or flight, your body is not going to need the blood sitting in your digestive system. This is why sometimes you get butterflies in your stomach. That is your sympathetic nervous system. You're feeling a bit on edge, a bit nervous. And the blood is moving away from your stomach, so you feel a bit nauseated as well. In a way, it's moving a little bit of blood away from your brain, because it's just moving it to your arms and your legs, ready to react. And so when you move blood away from this area and then you try and eat something, so if you're stressed out during the day, but it's lunchtime or I'm going to have a snack, you're eating, yes, it's going in your mouth, but when it gets to your digestive system, you're producing a hell of a lot less digestive enzymes. Chyme, another thing that comes down as part of the digestive system as you chew it in your mouth, your saliva comes down through chyme into digestive enzymes in the stomach. It's all a bit of the technical stuff, but all of these things aren't being produced in the amounts they would be if you were in your parasympathetic relaxed system. So eating when stressed is here comes some more dogs, is a real bad thing for both digestion, processing of the nutrients, for bloating. It's going to create bloating, and it's just not a great thing if you're looking to lose fat as well, because digestion is obviously very crucial. So there's a little bit more of an in-depth explanation as to why some of these can really affect you. Hi there, mate, how you doing? And are worth paying a little bit of attention to as well, if some of those ring true for quite an often occurrence. Yes, if you're stressed, what should you do? I would maybe look to have some kind of a lighter liquid meal, like a soup, because there is less digestion to go on for that. Maybe even leave it for a bit, but ideally, if you're stressing often, maybe it's time to start looking at the brain and how you are dealing with stresses. Maybe it's time to chill out a little bit, do a little bit of meditation or a bit of deep breathing for only 2 or 3 minutes, just to slow the body down. And it won't take long, because if you think about it, how long does it take you to move from your parasympathetic relaxed state into a stressed fight or flight? As I said, it can literally take a second of a bang. your body reacts quickly. It's no point in it reacting slowly. It's not designed that way. What's the point in reacting slowly if there is a proper danger going on? And so therefore, it only takes a second to move into the sympathetic fight or flight. And equally, it only takes a few more seconds to come back into a relaxed state if you want to slow things down. Take a bit of time out. And as I say, it will benefit not just your health, but also fat loss that you're maybe looking for as well. Hope that helps out a little bit more. I'll pop up another 4 tips later today and possibly go in depth a little bit more tomorrow with it. Any questions, pop them below. But happy to be helping, hopefully. Cheers, bye.